and we'll get into this pretty big matchup here to start the season. No tiptoeing into the pool here for the Bills or the Ravens. I want to ask you, though, from your experience as a player, what is this week like? Like, I'm looking at this as an analyst and trying to predict outcomes, fantasy football and betting, whatever else. And it seems like, well, just sort of logically, it's the hardest season to know what you're going to get, or the hardest week, rather, I should say, to know what you're going to get. Is there any of that as a player? I mean, is preparation different this week than later?
Yeah, it is, because you don't really know what to watch. You know, it's funny. I got for radio Cowboys Eagles Thursday night for Westwood One, and then Sunday my game is the Arizona Cardinals and the New Orleans Saints. And so, like, the New Orleans Saints have a totally new coaching staff, right? So you really don't know what they're going to do schematically in that opener. You know, the Eagles Thursday night, they have a new OC. So not only are you don't know what the Eagles are going to, the new wrinkles for them offensively, but then the Eagles aren't even saying who's starting at three different positions, corner, safety, and linebacker. So it feels like there's always more unknown with week one. There's also just a higher level of excitement. You kind of just went through the worst part of the year for whatever it was, 6 or 7 weeks, and now it's like, okay, you know, this is our team. I'm on the roster. I'm getting paid. You know, we got through the hard part. We're at the fun part, or the more fun part, about to get this thing going. You're excited for the full stadium and for the promise of what could be. It's one of the best weeks of the year. There are some issues from a preparation standpoint, but the coaches usually do a good job of that because they watch so much, right? What's really interesting for the Bills and the Ravens is that, you know, they just played each other. You know, I mean, that was like late January, so that is rare, I feel like, for an opening week to have a game tape you can watch that should be mostly the same guys, the same coaches. There should be a lot of carryover.
Ross, year to year, how different would your view or any of your teammates' view of what the season was going to hold or what you thought it might hold? How much would that vary? Like, were there years, or was every year the same? Like, we're good, let's go. Everybody's 0-0, we can go win the division. Or were there years where you knew, like, we don't have it, but, you know, I'm here, good. I'm gonna do everything I can, keep my spot. But, you know, the big picture, we probably don't have a team that's really going to contend for much. Like, is that a little too real? Is there like a denial of that from a player standpoint that you would want to avoid?
So, you know what's interesting about that, okay? The whole week is designed to prepare you to beat the opponent that week. And so you come in Wednesday, and the coaches spent every hour Monday and Tuesday coming up with this plan. And the reality is, on a week-to-week basis, you really do think you're going to win every week. Because on a week-to-week basis, they come in and they're like, hey, they're doing this, and we're going to do that against it. And this guy's not playing that well, so we're going to attack him here. And then you do all these things Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. By the time you get to Sunday, you're feeling pretty confident about that game. Now, before the season, I can recall, I probably told you guys this story, but in 2006, I got traded from New England to Cleveland for a conditional 7th-round pick, which is the highest honor an NFL player can achieve. And, you know, LaCharles Bentley had tore his knee up, so I was immediately like the starting center. And all these reporters came up to me, and they were, you know, it was like the second day I was there or whatever, and they're asking me, and I said, well, let me just tell you, I've heard great things about Romeo Crennel from everybody in New England. They just sing his praises. We've got some really impressive young talent in Kellen Winslow and Braylon Edwards. You know, I think the sky's the limit for Charlie Fry at quarterback. You know, that's what I said. If they forced me to be honest, I would have said, I knew after a day, I would have been like, Romeo Crennel's way too nice, not going to work out for him as a head coach. Charlie Fry, I can't believe he's the starting quarterback here. That's wild. Kellen Winslow and Braylon Edwards are talented, but they're already rich and they're kind of punks. So I don't know. I'm not expecting much from them. So we'll probably be lucky to win 4 games, but they're going to pay me money to play football in Cleveland this year, so I'm happy to be here.
Right.
That's what I would have said if I was being honest.
Yeah.
It was pretty clear we weren't going to be very good.
Whatever it takes, I guess, to get through the media stuff and then to sort of keep your head right. Ross Tucker with us on the Wester Hotline. Ross, please forgive me for not remembering. Were you here for Bills-Ravens in January?
I was not.
Okay.
I did. Was that divisional round?
Yeah. All right. I thought maybe
you know
were.
What? I know what I did. I did Texans Chiefs the day before on radio.
Okay. Well, it was a game where, the Bills got through it. They did fine offensively. They could never stop Baltimore, but Baltimore had 3 turnovers. Of course, the 2-point play dropped by Mark Andrews to win the game, and the Bills win by 2. These two teams, as we've also talked about several times, have kind of parallel existences, just sort of living in the Chiefs' shadow despite being so excellent. How do you compare the Bills and the Ravens off of last year going into this one?
Well, what's interesting is I think the Ravens are a more talented team, right? I think, when you look at like the Ravens and some of the guys that they have some really high-level players, right? Like Kyle Hamilton, that guy's a top 10, maybe top 5 defensive player in the league. I don't really feel like the Bills have that guy. Matabike and Travis Jones, they're D tackles. I think the Bills would love to have guys like that. And as much as they like Terrell Bernard and Milano when he's healthy, those guys are not Roquan Smith. So what's interesting is I think top to bottom, the Ravens are the more talented team. I think James Cook's a good player. I don't think he's Derrick Henry. I don't think their tight ends are Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. So that actually, to me, is somewhat of a feather in the cap of Sean McDermott as well as Josh Allen, that the the Bills have basically done more with less over the last 3 or 4 years. Now, they had Stephon Diggs and whatever, but I think it's really fair to say these teams, I love how you described it, parallel universe or whatever, and every year I'm pretty confident the Ravens have had more All-Pros, more Pro Bowl players, whatever. Well, the Bills have beat them the 2 playoff games. The Bills have been to more conference championship games. The Bills have done more than the Ravens have. So I think that is certainly a feather in the cap of McDermott and Josh Allen. I would also say, and it's the case again this year, the Bills have the easier division, right? Like, they're not having to play the Steelers and the Bengals. And even a couple of these years, the Browns have, made the playoffs.
Yeah.
Whereas, I think the Dolphins have been okay, but the Patriots have been down for a while. The Jets have been down for a while. So I think that's helped that both of those playoff games have been in Buffalo.
How much, if at all, do you put any stock in the Ravens talking about wanting to right the wrong from last year here? There's been a consistent amount of chatter, I would say, about that. That they want to come in here and show everybody what's what. It's you only do so much. We all know that these teams are ultimately going to be judged on what happens if they should play again in January. So it's September and it's the opener. But is there anything to be gained from pouring a lot into, we want to show these guys that we can handle them?
I think there is, right? There's always motivation. It's the opener. The Bills are fired up. Home opener last year with this stadium, Sunday Night Football. But I do think that pain and that regret has been a motivator for the Ravens all off season. I've spoken with some people with the Ravens. They're so sick of being talked about as the regular season kings, the regular season champions. because I don't know if you guys know this, but they have so many statistics that are just incredibly impressive, right? Like yards per attempt and all those things, where the Ravens on paper are the best team in football, better than the Chiefs, better than the Eagles, but they lose games they shouldn't lose. They don't get it done in the playoffs, all those kind of things. But I think they are supremely motivated. I said this on the Even Money betting podcast today. I like the Ravens in the game. I do think that matters. I think the Bills have an edge to bounce back and win the Super Bowl and all those things. But the Bills aren't playing the Chiefs Sunday night. The Ravens are playing the team that they've been thinking about. And so I do give an edge to the Ravens because of that. Yeah, I think it's a good question.
Bills favored by 1.5, total 50.5 on Sunday night. Ross Tucker with us here on WGR. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog. Insider Calls brought to you by Nationwide. For your insurance and financial needs, Nationwide is on your side. Boy, I slipped there. I didn't even have the mayonnaise thing from last year to trip on. All right, Ross. Well, these Bills versus last year's Bills. Offense mostly the same. I mean, a couple of changes at wide receiver. Not only do they have their starting offensive line back, they have their backup offensive line back mostly. It's very much the same. Defensively, some important changes. I'm worried more for them about their secondary than anything else by far. Trey White was kind of an unknown already. Now he's injured, may or may not play. Safety's a question. I don't even think Rapp is so good. We're just sort of taking him for granted at safety. I mean, not fast or anything. Benford's excellent. If this team doesn't win a sixth AFC East title in a row, why won't they have?
Well, first of all, who's starting in the secondary? Is it Benford, Bishop, Rapp, Taryn? Who's the other corner?
Well, Taron Johnson's their nickel corner. The second boundary corner is Max Hairston got hurt, so he's out to begin the year. And Trey White had been squatting on that spot, but he got hurt before the final preseason game. And we don't know. We still haven't gotten a real solid update on what kind of timeline he's on. So there could be very much a your name here at boundary corner to start the season.
Got like that Jamarcus Ingram guy, maybe?
Yeah, Ingram, or there's a draft pick, Strong, who I think has been mentioned as he's on the roster. He's on the depth chart. I mean, he might be the guy.
Well, let me just tell you the way the NFL works. Whichever one of those guys is out there, he's going to have Chris Collinsworth talking about him a lot because that's who the Ravens are going to attack, right? And so then the Bills are going to try to protect whoever that is, which means Benford's going to have to really play well because he might be singled up a bunch. That makes it fascinating. Honestly, Mike, barring a Josh Allen injury, I would have a really tough time picturing anybody else winning this division. I mean, I think the Bills are 4 games better than anybody else. I think the Dolphins are going the wrong direction. There's a lot of hype around the Patriots that I'm not I think they'll be better, but I'm not buying this 9 or 10 wins in playoffs. Did any of these people watch the Patriots play football last year? And people are acting oh, they got 9 or 10 wins, playoffs. Listen, Mike Vrabel is a better coach than Gerard Mayo, but Tom Brady's not walking through that door. I don't. And the Jets, I don't even know what to think of the Jets. So I think it's very realistic that the Bills win 12 games or more, and nobody else in the division wins more than 7. I mean, that's a distinct possibility. So I really can't even answer that with a straight face. I'd be shocked, absolutely shocked, if the Bills don't win that division, barring, obviously, an injury to Josh.
And that was pretty much last year. They won the division by literally 5 games last year, having clinched it on December 1st.
But they still weren't the number 1 seed.
Right. I know. Well, that's just
the problem.
Cruel and unusual.
It's enough. They need to be the number 1 seed. Think about it. I told you guys I have this betting podcast, right? Even Money. Think about the difference between having to win 2 home games to go to the Super Bowl versus 3 games, an additional game, and at least one of those games is away. It's a big difference. Like you think about it, it's like a 2-game parlay versus a 3-game parlay, right? Like you're adding a whole other leg to your card there, to your parlay. There's no reason, especially with how good the AFC West is, with the Chargers playoff team, like that's what makes what the Chiefs did last year incredible. Both the Chargers and the Broncos made the playoffs, and the Chiefs still had by far the best record. I mean, and by the way, the Raiders are going to be better this year. So the Bills need the number 1 seed. They need to win all the games they're supposed to win, and more than their fair share of the swing one. Sunday night's a swing one. Sunday night
It's a big one, yeah.
Big one to lock in.
Yeah.
The third leg.
What do you think of the Chiefs going into this year, Ross? The other top tier team in the AFC.
Yeah, I think that they are. They're my favorite in the AFC. Right? I mean, it's like I'll believe somebody else will beat them when I see it. I think they're better at left tackle with this rookie Simmons than they have been. I think it's scary to think that they could have Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice all on the field the last 10 games of the year at the same time. And I've had multiple people tell me that Travis Kelce basically went psycho this offseason because he wants to finish his career on a high note and is in like tremendous shape. And they're expecting him to have his best year in a few years. So I'm taking all that, and I think the Chiefs will have a worse record, but be a better team. I don't think they're going to win every one-score game for the rest of my life. I think they'll lose a couple one-score games, but I think they'll be a better team, and I think they're still the favorite in the AFC, which is why the Bills or the Ravens, whoever, need to get number 1 seed and need to make the playoff path for the Chiefs as difficult as possible.
You mentioned those other teams out there, the Raiders even being improved. Do you think Denver and the Chargers take a step from being playoff teams last year and even challenge KC for the top of that division, or is that a bridge too far?
I do not think the Chargers do. I think the Rashawn Slater injury is significant, but I do think the Broncos have that in them. Yeah. I mean, I think Peyton's a heck of a coach. Their defense is awesome. Their O-line is awesome. If Bo Nix can take that next step, I think it's definitely, my guy Steve Fezzik on Even Money today. This is the second week in a row where he said he thinks the Broncos are very live to win that division. I'm not going that far, okay? But I do think that's within the realm of possibility, yes. Not for the Chargers, but absolutely for the Broncos.
Everything you said, whenever it comes to my mind, I sort of put on the same voice you did, just incredulous as to how last year didn't ever break right for the Bills in the standings. Everything you said, plus they had it clinched with a week to go so they could rest everybody in Denver for that game.
It's unbelievable. It's
unbelievable. That should have been a beast of a game. That should have been a beast of a game for them. Denver was playing for the playoffs, on the road, altitude, and they got to, sit in lounge chairs.
And then how about this? Then they get a week off. Then they play the Texans at home while the Bills have to absolutely destroy themselves against an awesome Ravens team. Now, the flip side is we can say that, Mike, but the year before, the Chiefs did it. They went to Buffalo and won. They went to Baltimore and won. The point is we know they're really good, but you still want to increase their degree of difficulty every year in the playoff path, and they did not do that. It's so reminiscent of when the Patriots had the 1 or 2 seed and they were home and they were in the AFC, and it's so reminiscent of the Brady Belichick years. It's fascinating.
It is. I did a rant on this the other day. Just nobody needed the 7 seed in this sport. Like, it was perfect before, where 1 and 2 would get the buys, but 1, I know I sound like sour grapes, but this is really how I feel objectively. Like, 1 gets home field, but 2 gets the week off. I mean, you go way back, then all the division winners had buys, and there was just the 2 wild cards. But who asked for the 7 seed? Who was out there, Ross? Maybe somebody on your Even Money or one of your shows, your many shows, was like, you know what the sport really needs to become popular? A 7 seed in each conference. And these teams always stink, and the games are bad. but we had to have them, and it amplified that advantage that the 1 seed gets. Again, I'm sure I sound to somebody just passing through Buffalo like, oh, listen to this guy, right? The Chiefs, to your last point, the Chiefs actually did win it the year before from the road, but still, nobody needed it.
Two things. Number one, you're right. I think they've overly weighted the number 1 seed. If anything, I would think at this point, add an 8th seed to the playoffs and at least make those guys have to play that first week. I mean, they added the game for money. I get it. Money is good. We like money. I was a player. I get it. But then add an 8th team and have the number 1 team have to play for even more money so that it's not that overweighted. Right. The flip side of that, Mike, is like, okay, then go get the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
You know, if that's the way it is, then go get. If it's that important and we all recognize it is, then get it.
Right. Ross, thank you. It's such a privilege to have you on every week during the season. We're glad it's here.
Absolutely. Great to talk with you guys. Can't wait till next week. It should be a fun one Sunday night.
Enjoy New Orleans. That was Odyssey NFL insider Ross Tucker. Make sure to check out the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, daily NFL podcast, on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. All right. Yet another signpost.
Yep, that's in the books.
The season is here.